Understanding the value of self-respect and personal boundaries is one of the most important lessons in life, yet it is often the most ignored in the beginning of a person's journey. Many people grow up believing that being available for everyone, saying yes to everything, and keeping everyone comfortable is a sign of kindness or success. But over time, life begins to reveal a deeper truth. Without boundaries, kindness turns into self-neglect, and availability turns into exhaustion. Self-respect begins the moment you realize that your time is not unlimited and your energy is not replaceable. Every hour you spend, every emotional investment you make, and every situation you engage in carries value. When you do not protect that value, you slowly start giving pieces of yourself away to people and situations that may not appreciate or deserve it. This is where boundaries become essential, not as walls of isolation, but as filters of protection. A person with strong boundaries does not allow emotions, pressure, or fear of rejection to dictate their decisions. Instead, they make choices based on clarity and self-worth. They understand that saying no to what drains them is actually saying yes to what strengthens them. And this shift in mindset is where real transformation begins. Because the moment you stop living to please others, you start living to build yourself. Self-respect also means recognizing patterns in your relationships. It means noticing who respects your time and who wastes it, who values your presence and who only benefits from it, and who supports your growth and who quietly holds you back. When you lack boundaries, you ignore these patterns. But when you develop them, you start seeing people for who they truly are, not who you hope they will become. One of the greatest misunderstandings is that boundaries push people away. In reality, boundaries reveal who is meant to stay. The right people will never be offended by your need for respect, clarity, or space. They will understand it. They will adapt to it. And sometimes they will even admire it. But those who resist your boundaries are often the ones who benefited from your lack of them. There is also a silent strength that comes from self-respect. It changes the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, and even the way you are treated. When you respect yourself, you stop over-explaining your decisions. You stop chasing approval. You stop bending your values just to fit into spaces that were never designed for your growth. Instead, you begin to stand firm in your identity, even if it means standing alone for a while. And yes, in the beginning, this shift can feel uncomfortable. People who were used to unlimited access to your time and energy may resist your change. They may question you, misunderstand you, or even distance themselves. But that discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that you are finally doing something right. Growth often feels like loss before it feels like freedom. As you continue to build self-respect, you begin to notice something powerful. Your life becomes quieter but clearer. You no longer feel pulled in every direction. You no longer feel emotionally exhausted by unnecessary connections. Instead, you start to feel a sense of control, direction, and inner stability that was missing before. That is the reward of boundaries. They do not limit your life, they refine it. Ultimately, self-respect is not about being rigid or closed off. It is about being intentional. It is about understanding that not every request deserves a yes, not every relationship deserves access, and not every situation deserves your energy. When you truly understand this, you stop living reactively and start living consciously. And in that conscious living, you begin to build a life that reflects not just who you are, but who you are becoming. The hidden cost of keeping the wrong people around is something most people only understand after they have already paid for it with time, energy, and emotional exhaustion. At first, it rarely feels like a cost. It feels like compromise, patience, loyalty, or simply making things work. You convince yourself that every relationship deserves another chance, another explanation, another opportunity to improve. But slowly, without realizing it, you begin to lose more than you gain. Every person in your life influences your mindset in some way. It may not always be obvious, but it is constant. The conversations you engage in, the energy you absorb, and the behaviors you tolerate all start shaping your thoughts and decisions. When you surround yourself with the right people, this influence pushes you forward. It strengthens your confidence, sharpens your focus, and encourages your growth. But when you keep the wrong people close, the influence works in the opposite direction. It becomes subtle resistance against your progress. One of the biggest hidden costs is emotional drain. Some people do not directly harm you, but they continuously take from you. They take your attention, your patience, your understanding, and your emotional energy. After interacting with them, you feel tired instead of inspired. You feel confused instead of clear. You feel heavier instead of lighter. And when this pattern repeats, you start to normalize exhaustion as part of your your daily life without realizing it is not normal at all. Another hidden cost is the loss of focus. Wrong relationships often bring unnecessary drama, repeated misunderstandings, and emotional distractions. Instead of focusing on your goals, your growth, and your future, your mind becomes occupied with solving problems that should never have existed in the first place. Your energy, which should have been invested in building your life, gets redirected into maintaining connections that are not aligned with your direction. There is also a deeper cost that is harder to see: slow identity erosion. Over time, when you stay too long in environments where your values are not respected, you begin to adjust yourself just to maintain peace. You start compromising your standards. You start accepting behavior that you once would have walked away from. And little by little, you stop recognizing the stronger version of yourself that existed before these influences became dominant in your life. The wrong people do not always show themselves immediately. In the beginning, they may seem supportive, interesting, or even necessary, but their true impact is revealed over time, not in words, but in patterns. Do they support your growth or distract you from it? Do they respect your boundaries or repeatedly test them? Do they bring clarity or confusion into your life? These questions reveal the truth more than any promise ever can. One of the most dangerous illusions is the belief that time alone will fix toxic dynamics. People often think that if they just stay long enough, tolerate enough, or explain enough, things will eventually improve. But the reality is that patterns rarely change without intention. And if someone repeatedly drains your energy, disrespects your space, or disrupts your peace, time usually amplifies the damage rather than healing it. The cost is not always immediate, which is why it is often ignored. It builds quietly. A little stress here, a little disappointment there, a few broken expectations, a few ignored boundaries. Individually, they seem small, but collectively, they shape your emotional environment. And that environment directly affects your mindset, your motivation, and your ability to grow. When you finally recognize this cost, clarity begins to form. You start understanding that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary. You realize that not everyone who stays in your life is meant to move forward with you. Some people are connected to a previous version of your life, not the future you are trying to build. And once this understanding settles in, your perspective changes. You stop asking, how do I fix this relationship? And start asking, what is this relationship costing me? That shift in question changes everything, because awareness always comes before change, and once you truly see the cost, you can no longer ignore it. In the end, the hidden cost of keeping the wrong people around is not just what they take from you in the moment, but what they prevent you from becoming over time. Letting go is one of the most misunderstood ideas in personal growth because people often confuse it with failure, weakness, or loss. In reality, letting go is one of the highest forms of strength a person can develop. It is the ability to recognize when something no longer belongs in your life and having the courage to release it without guilt, anger, or regret. It is not about giving up, it is about leveling up. Most people stay attached not because something is good for them, but because it is familiar. The human mind naturally resists change, even when change is necessary for growth. We hold on to people, habits, and situations simply because they feel known. Even if they create stress, confusion, or pain, familiarity often feels safer than uncertainty. But growth never happens inside comfort zones. It always demands movement, and sometimes that movement requires distance. The power of letting go begins with awareness. You start noticing that not every connection adds value to your life. Some connections drain you. Some repeat the same emotional cycles. Some keep you stuck in versions of yourself you have already outgrown. And once you see this clearly, you reach a point where holding on becomes more painful than releasing. That is the moment where transformation begins. Letting go is not an emotional reaction. It is a conscious decision. It is choosing long-term peace over short-term comfort. It is choosing clarity over confusion. It is choosing self-respect over emotional dependency. And although the decision may feel difficult at first, it often brings immediate relief once it is made. Because deep down, you already knew what needed to change. You were just delaying the courage to act on it. There is a misconception that letting go means losing something valuable. But in many cases, what you release is not aligned with your future. It may have value in your past, but not in your growth. And when something no longer supports your direction, keeping it does not preserve your life. It restricts it. Just like a tree cannot grow if its roots are trapped, a person cannot evolve while holding on to what limits them. One of the most powerful outcomes of letting go is mental clarity. When you remove emotional noise, your thinking becomes sharper. When you remove toxic cycles, your energy becomes lighter. When you remove unnecessary attachments, happens, your focus returns to your own life. Suddenly, decisions become easier, priorities become clearer, and your sense of direction becomes stronger than it was before. Another important truth is that letting go creates space, and that space is not empty. It is potential. It is where new opportunities, healthier relationships, and stronger versions of yourself begin to emerge. But many people never experience this because they keep their lives emotionally overcrowded. They hold on to what is familiar and unknowingly block what is better. There is also emotional resistance that comes with letting go. At first, it can feel uncomfortable. You may question your decision. You may feel moments of doubt or nostalgia. The mind often romanticizes the past, even when the past was not healthy. But these feelings are temporary. They are part of the adjustment process, not a signal that you made the wrong choice. Over time, something interesting happens. What once felt like loss starts feeling like freedom. The emotional weight you were carrying begins to disappear. You start to notice peace in places where there was once tension. And slowly, you realize that letting go was not the end of something. It was the beginning of something better. The strongest individuals are not those who hold on the longest. They are the ones who know when to release. They understand that life is not about keeping everything. It is about keeping what aligns with who they are becoming. And this understanding gives them a different kind of strength, a quiet confidence that does not depend on external validation. Ultimately, letting go is an act of self-trust. It is believing that what is meant for you will not require force, struggle, or emotional sacrifice. It is trusting that your life improves not when you hold on tighter, but when you release what no longer belongs. In conclusion, the real strength in life does not come from how much you can hold on to, but from how wisely you can choose what to release. When you understand that not everyone deserves a place in your life, you begin to protect your peace with intention instead of emotion. You stop living by impulse and start living by awareness. Self-respect teaches you to set boundaries that preserve your energy. Awareness shows you the hidden cost of the wrong people in your life, and growth gives you the courage to let go of what no longer aligns with your future. Together, these lessons shape a more focused, peaceful, and purpose-driven life. Letting go is never just about loss, it is about alignment. Every time you release what drains you, you create space for what strengthens you. Every time you step away from confusion, you move closer to clarity. And every time you choose yourself, you silently upgrade the quality of your entire life. In the end, life becomes simpler when you stop forcing connections that were never meant to last. You begin to understand that peace is not found in holding everything together, but in allowing the wrong things to fall away. And when you finally reach that level of understanding, you don't just change your relationships, you change your entire direction in life.